as fancy as Excel. You know, and I apologize for that. Excel is the fun one. But I did want to try to give you some tips and tricks along the way and try to introduce you to some of the new stuff in Microsoft Word. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show you the Word document, and I hope everybody can see it. Okay, all right, so I am operating now on the Office 365 package that is from the online version. They've upgraded us here, so this is the newest version of Word. More than likely, your organizations probably have that. If not, you can talk to me separately, and I can show you some of the of those things. And I'm going to try to monitor the chat too. So in case there's something you have a question or anything, I'll look over occasionally to see if we can get that answered for you. So the Microsoft Word interface is very similar to the Excel, if you've had any of those trainings with me. It's very similar because all of Microsoft platforms are pretty much cohesive with each other. So again, I won't go into much detail on the Home tab because that's most of your formatting. So again, over here to the left is your print and your format, your bold, your underline, things that people are usually familiar with in the Microsoft package. Some of the things that people are not so familiar with is Format Painter. So if you're working on a document, and I'm just going to type Tara's name, my name, and Crystal's name onto a document. If you're working with a Word document, a report or something, and you've got like an executive summary and your section 1, section 2, section 3, and then you notice as you're going through and reading it that you want your headers to all be the same, a lot of people will format the first header, make it bold, increase the size, and maybe change the color to one of your, company colors. And they'll keep doing it for the entire document. A quick way to ensure that you can do formatting, similar formatting throughout the document without having to do all of that is to use what they call the Format Painter. So you're going to highlight whatever format you want to kind of copy. So I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm going to double click really quick to turn on that Format Painter, and notice that it's a light gray now. It's a toggle button, so it turns on and off. So if I click off of it, it's not dark gray anymore. So I'm going to highlight and double click to turn it on, and then anything that I click on from that moment on will change to that formatting. So if you're working on a very long document and want to change things similar throughout the whole document, again, let me do that one more time for you. So you're going to format the very first one to whatever format you want, highlight it, double click the Format Painter to make sure it's turned on, and it will turn a darker gray to let you know the toggle button is on. And then you're just going to click from there. All right, and everything you click on will copy that formatting. So it's painting that formatting on everything you're clicking. All right, that's a trick some people do not know about, which is it's a very efficient time saver if you're doing some stuff. Most of the bullet points, etc., people are very familiar with. One other thing that people are not familiar with is paragraph spacing. So if you'll notice that when I hit enter on my screen, it leaves this extra space in between them. That's a default of Microsoft Word. So most college papers, most reporting, most writing today requires that 1.5 spacing to 2 spacing. So Microsoft kind of defaults you to that spacing. If you do not want that spacing, the first rule of every Microsoft thing is highlight before you click. So we're going to highlight the items on this sheet. I'm going to go over to what I call the launch pad, which is this little bitty symbol here on each section. And when I click it, it launches the paragraph dialog box. Notice at the very bottom, it says spacing. So again, you're defaulted to after spacing of about 8 points because it gives you that extra bump. If you change it to 0 or 6 or larger, if it goes down to 0 and you click OK, notice those spaces kind of disappear, right? Another thing to get even more spacing here is to ensure that your line spacing button, which is right beside your center and merges, if you click here to that line spacing, make sure it's down to 1 space. And again, that space disappears. Okay, so 1 spacing, and then set your before and after spacing to 0 or whatever large amount you want to do that. Are there any questions for that? And again, I'm watching the chat box just to make sure. Tara liked the format painter. People don't know about it. And then we have built-in styles here that pretty much everyone is familiar with. These are built-in styles that you can change the sections to, so to make it look like a header or a title or a quote, etc. Anything that you would like to emphasize, you can use these styles that are already built into Word. Now, what I will tell you about using the styles. So if you're writing a document or writing, my best example is probably a policy or procedure for something. If you're writing that, you're naturally going to have different headers and different sections, but you're also going to have a table of contents. Most documents require that table of contents, especially in professional setting. So my recommendation is to become very familiar with this heading 1 and heading 2 style. Because if you change it to a heading 1, and I'll go ahead and do that here, when you insert a table of contents in the references section, which we'll talk about in a second. Oh, there's somebody else coming on. If you look at the table of contents, you'll notice that there are some automatic tables that you can put in here. So when you automatically insert that table of contents into your document, it will put your headers in there automatically. So your table of contents will automatically include all of your headers that you formatted that way. It will also allow you to update the table of contents. So if you're going through your document and changing it, and you've changed the title of the header, or you've moved it in the document, or if you decided to do something, when you click on your table of contents, it'll be a little update section at the top. And when you hit that, it updates it automatically and reformats all of your headers the way you move them in the document. So if you're really doing a lot of writing, that's probably an efficient way to do it, is to style them as header 1 and 2. 1 is the top, 2 is like a subsection of that. So, and then when you insert an automatic table of contents, that will be a little bit more efficiency on your end that will allow you to do that. Now, I'll stop and pause here for a second. At the very end of this, I will show you our new website. And there's a way to book appointments with me. So if any of you have anything that you're learning in these classes, Excel, etc., just book a 30-minute session with me, and you've got questions, we can hop on Zoom or Teams and we'll get them answered for you. So don't think that, you got to watch the recording 50 times or something to try to figure this out. I'm always available. As long as I don't have anything booked, I'm always available for you to reach out to. And the last thing that I will tell you is, in the newer versions of Microsoft Office has this dictate button, which means that if you have a headset, a microphone on your laptop, which 9 times out of 10 you probably do, it will allow you to dictate by Microsoft Speech. You can start typing by dictation instead of having to type it. It's almost like having your personal assistant with you, and they're just typing stuff, and you can go back and format and edit it. So that's a cool little thing with Word now, that you can dictate through that. All right, I'm going to delete and start again. On the Insert tab, people don't know that there are several things that you can insert into a Microsoft Word document. Has anyone ever looked at a newsletter that you printed on Microsoft, and it's got like 3 or 4 columns, all these pictures, like almost like a newspaper? Well, they probably did it in Word or some fancy software that costs a lot of money. But in Word, you can kind of design that format. So let's look at a couple of things. So you can build a custom cover sheet for your document by clicking on cover page. So the first page of your report, it's natural cover pages that you can just click on. It's already built. You just type in your stuff. You're good to go. You can also insert a blank page or a page break. I like to use page breaks, and if you'll notice, when I click, if I insert a page break, it automatically moves that information to the next page. So those formats you'll see where you've kind of missed a blank space or something, and you did a page break. The reason why I use them is it does not alter the information on your first sheet. So notice now I have 2 pages, but if I add information to this first page, my page break just continues to go down. So it does not hinder you from changing the format of that first page or second page. It just makes that page stay different from the next one. and that gives you a little bit more flexibility with your printing styles and the way that you're doing booklets, etc. with Microsoft Word. Now, I have opened a document on my thing and copied something from a website so I can show you how this these inserting of pictures kind of works. Okay, my favorite subject is the Supreme Court, so I'm just going to pop in a Supreme Court justice. Okay, if I insert a picture from this device, I will go to my stock images and just pick something. So I'm just going to pick Sonia Sotomayor. All right, so when you're inserting a picture into a document, here's the fun tricks that many people don't know that you can play with on a picture. Notice when I put it in there, it posted it where my cursor was. So I was right between uni and so it put it right in between it in its own little paragraph space, right? But maybe I don't want that. So on these new versions of Word, you have two options. What pops up at the top is your regular tabs that you're familiar with: home, insert, design, layout, reference, etc. But when you're working with an object, just like you are in Microsoft Excel, that object has its own contextual tab that pops up when you're working with that object. So if I click off of that picture, my regular tabs are at the top. If I click on that picture, I have a picture formatting tab that pops up. That is the contextual tab that pops up when you're working with objects. So notice that you have a position and wrap text button over here. You also have the same button on the right side of the picture that pops up to give you that quick access. So let me give you a couple of layout options. In line with the text means what it's doing right now. It's putting that picture in its own space and moving the paragraph away from it. All right, that might be fine for your document, but what happens is if I click on this picture and I decide to click and drag and move it, it still has to go in its own space, right? I can't move it between words. I can't keep my words the same. It kind of gets a little frustrating. If I click on another one of these styles, it allows me to alter some of this a little bit differently. So my first one is square. When I click that, notice that it squares it off like a newspaper. Okay, so it puts it in like a really good format. And if I click enter and start typing again, it squares it off around the paragraph. So it really looks a little bit cleaner. Now, the next option is to tight, which means that it's tight to the picture. Now, that doesn't look much different than the square option. Now I can show you a little bit different. So I'll make it a circle. Do you see the difference in the tight now? It actually tightens itself to the shape of the picture. So if I go back to the square, it's a square. It tightens itself around like a square. But if I go to the circle, it makes itself kind of oval along with the circle. So as I continue to type, it makes itself around the circle a little bit better, right? So that's what tight does. Now, the other two options, and I really like them a little bit. So through is the same as kind of the squared off option. It just kind of puts it around it. Top or bottom, it still makes it in its own paragraph space, but it puts everything on the top and bottom, all right? These other two allow you a little bit more flexibility with moving an object inside of a Word document. So if I go behind text, it means that the picture, I can move it anywhere in this document that I want to without messing up anything. And it's behind all of the text. Now, if you've got white text on this background, it looks good. That black text does not look like that. So sometimes you have to be careful with your formatting to ensure that you can see all of your words. If you click in front of, you can still maneuver it around your document and it just goes in front of your text. So this gives you a little bit more flexibility without altering anything in the shape of your document. And most people stick with this option and get really frustrated when they can't move it around the document without messing up their information. So again, click on here, that picture formatting, and you can choose the wrap text command button, that will allow you to do a little bit of this, or you can just use that little icon that pops up to the right and you can format there. But I usually use the through and behind or the tight because that puts it in the shape of the picture. Any questions with picture formatting? All right. You also have the option of inserting tables into a document if you want to keep like some information like a data part of the document. You're inserting a table. It's just column width and row height, and it will insert the table into your document. This table can be moved around at will, just like a picture can. And you also have a table design tab that pops up to be able to work with this object that you've put in. And I just want to give you a couple of things about these tables. So the header row and these total rows, these are just check boxes. You can actually format them to be different colors. So let me go into this table style and do a dark color here. I'm just going to pick one. So the top row and the left row are all styled. I can do the last row as well. Undo the first row, undo the banded rows, which means that they're not different colors alternating down, and I can change it to banded columns. So the columns are banded instead of the rows. I don't recommend doing them both because that's a little confusing. But you also have a total row at the bottom, which highlights at the bottom. So maybe you have some extra stuff you want to put in there, right? Okay, so I'm going to delete that here. Right click and delete the table. So again, you have that option to insert a table and change kind of the color scheme behind it. You also can insert shapes of any style. The shapes work just like pictures, so you can make them go behind the words, in front of the words, tight or rounded and squared as you see fit. You also have the ability to insert icons. This is a kind of a Bing search. And you're able to search for icons just like you can pictures online. And you also can insert smart art, which is different kind of processing grids like lists and processes. And so when you insert these, they become smart objects inside of your document. You also can change the colors of those just like you can any of the other tables. Right, and I will delete that. All right, now I usually go over the charting function. A lot of people don't know this. So you can insert a chart inside of a Microsoft document and it's creating its own spreadsheet at the same time. So if I just use this one that popped up, this cluster chart that popped up, I'm going to hit enter and you'll see an Excel, little mini Excel spreadsheet pop up down here at the bottom. This is the chart data. So if I change this data, it's going to change the chart. So if I change this to 10, notice the charts change. So it's got its own little mini chart Excel spreadsheet behind it. And so if I close that and want to get back to it, working with this chart, I now have a format and chart design tab up here that pops up when you're working with an object. And so I can click on chart design and it'll be a select data command. And when I hit select data, that little spreadsheet pops up again because that's the data behind it that allows me to work with that spreadsheet. So you can create your own charts that are inside of your Word documents and not have to worry about having connecting data that you've already created. You can kind of paste in and copy that inside of that little mini Excel file. The last thing in this one is that's similar. Now we can go into some advanced stuff in other courses, but there's also a header and footer that you can insert here, as well as page numbers at different selections inside of the document. So if you want page numbers at the bottom, to the right, to the middle, to the left, etc., you have different options here. You also can put them at the top of the page and then do some page margin things. So you have some built-in things that help you style your documents the way that you choose to. All right. Any questions? All right, so the other thing before I go into references and mailings is you have a theme. I have a theme here that I have saved. You can create your own custom one and save your theme, and it will become a part of your desktop's themes. And what I did was created as Tried Goodwill. Notice the font changed really quickly. That's because now my formatting consists of all of Tried Goodwill's brand colors. So if I wanted to change the coloring here, I can change it to a brand color of our organization. I've also built in fonts that are fonts that we use on our branding. And so I created that theme so that when I work on documents and stuff, there's a consistency and branding across it. So if you want to change colors and save themes, you're able to do that under the Design tab and Theme, and you can save a theme that you have created. Okay. Any questions for there? You also, under Design, can put a watermark or change the color of your pages. Be mindful that printing costs a lot more if you have color pages. So this might be just for creating PDFs or something. You might want a lighter color in the back or whatever color you choose. Again, printing wise, it's probably a little bit more expensive, but for PDF versions and stuff that you're just digitally sending out, it's probably a good idea if you want to do some of that stuff.
Richard, where do you find the putting in a border? I think I used to know, and now I don't remember.
So under
page borders.
Yep, right here under the Design tab, it's all the way to the right.
Oh, right in front of me. Okay, thanks.
Yep, and then you have the option of some selections here. And believe it or not, Microsoft, which really shocked me, has not upgraded its like 25-year-old art here on borders. This was the same as it was when my grandfather had the DOS computer. So people do not use this anymore, but they still do the art borders if you think it's funny. But yeah, it's right here, Tara.
Thank you.
Now, most people know how to do layout, so we won't really cover anything here. The big section is the reference section. So as professional writers, most of the time, we have situations where we will create curriculum, we will create policies, we'll create, different types of reports, we'll do different things, and we have to cite our sources. Right? We can't plagiarize anything that belongs to somebody else. We can't do all that. That's part of, the good ethical part of being legal in the professional world. So under the reference tab, you have the ability to do some of that easily with Microsoft Word without having to worry about reading those books on MLA and APA styles and all these different things. So if you have to cite your source, in this tab, we have an insert citation section, a citation and bibliography section. The style here these are upgraded every time Microsoft does an update or anytime something new comes out. So I think now we're on MLA's 8th edition or 7th edition or something. You've got the Chicago style, you've got the Harvard style, you've got all these different styles. So depending on what type of organization you're in, you might be in one of the psychology fields, so you'll probably use the APA style, I believe. So it's a little bit different, but you have all of those options to choose from here. It's all of the main styles that you're familiar with. So if I was just to hit APA style, I can go in and manage my sources. Now on your computer, you'll notice that I have several sources here. They will stay in there once you've created a source. So if you wanted to create a new source, all you would do is hit new, and you would choose what type of source it is. So it might be a book, it might be an article from a journal, it might be a conference proceeding, it might be a website, it might be a piece of artwork. It might be a film or a case if you're in the legal field. So no matter what you put here, it's going to give you the options to fill out that you should be filling out. So again, if I choose book, I can put the title, the author, the year, the city, the publisher, etc. So I'm just going to use one of the ones that I've done. So I believe one of the good ones I did was this research paper that I found from 2012. So I could click on that site, select it and hit copy it over and hit close. And then what happens is I can insert a citation. So maybe I got to the end of my paragraph. I need to cite that that paragraph was from a source and I've just reworded it. So if I'm at the end of my paragraph and I go up here to insert citation, because I moved it over to my current document, now I can select this. It quotes the author and the year already for me. And then all I have to do is select bibliography here. And whichever style you're using, it could be called a bibliography, it could be called a reference section, or it could be called a works cited section. It depends on what type of document you're writing. So if I just pick bibliography, notice it automatically inserts all of my citations exactly the APA style, and it would be automatic in the document. So if I changed any of my references, so let's say at the end of my paragraph, I was like, nope, I didn't mean to cite that article. Let me change it to another one. I could delete this one, insert another one. And you'll notice when I click on the bibliography section, it says update citations and bibliographies, exactly the same as the table of contents. So if I hit update, it will automatically update any changes that I've made, put them back in alphabetical order, and move right on to my document. So again, if you're in the field where you have to do citations, this is really a time saver. Sometimes you might have to go through them and edit a little bit because the citation might be off from what you need, but 9 times out of 10, it is absolutely current. All right. Also, you have the ability to put footnotes in your document. So I'm a footnote person when I write reports. So wherever you are in the document and you click, so right here in the word hierarchy, let's say I needed to explain that I'm referring to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I would click here and I would do insert footnote. I would type something on my footnote section, whatever it may be. And notice there's a 1 that appears here on my footnote. And of course, that will remain in my document as footnotes. And again, you can update and do anything that you need to do. All right, any questions there? All right, before I do the mailing section, in the review, this is part of being in a collaborative environment with your peers. There are 2 things to do. You can use Microsoft Teams. So if you've had my Teams training, you know that Teams is designed to be a collaborative software, which means I can work on the document the same time that Tara is working on the document, at the same time Crystal is working on the document, and it will show us inside that document where we are. If that's not the case and you want to be a little bit different in your collaboration, Microsoft Word offers you a couple of tools that you can see things happening in your document when you send it to someone else. So that being said, let's say Tara wrote this little paragraph and she saved it and she sent it to me in an email and she said, Richard, can you look at this? And can you see if there's anything we might want to change? All right. There's 2 things that can happen to give Tara feedback. I can select this first paragraph and I can say, all right, I'm reading, and, here in the hierarchy section, I can say, you know what, I think we might want to mention Maslow here to kind of give a little bit more clarity. So I can highlight the word, go up here to review and insert a comment. And so it will show that I'm the user, and I can say, I would change the reference to include right? And then I can proceed down. All right. And I can do that throughout the document and leave Tara comments that say, I would change this, here's this. And she, when she gets it, has the ability to reply back to me and send the document again, or go through and say, like it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete this comment. I made that change, and just go ahead and do what she needs to do. And those comments will show up from Crystal, from Kathy, from Alma, from Adrian, whoever it is, you're the user of that computer, it'll show you made that comment. The other option for you to use is what's called track changes. All right. Track changes allows you to see every edit that you make. So if I toggle that button on and I start making changes, once that button has been initialized, anything you do is recorded. Right. So if I say, Here I would add the word Maslow. Notice it's underlined and in red. Here I might add a new paragraph here. I'm just act like I'm typing something. And then I would say, I don't want to call it leadership development program. If I delete it, it's a strike through, and I want to call it executive. If I can type. All right, I want to call it EDP. All right, so notice it did not take it out of the document. It simply just showed that I struck through it and deleted it and then added what I added. Now, when Tara comes back to this document, she'll see it like this, and she can go through and accept or reject my changes. So if she accepts, she can accept and move to the next, or accept all changes, which means it changes everything in the document if she likes it all. So I can say accept and move to the next. All right. So here is the Maslow. She says, all right, I really like that he added Maslow, so I'm going to accept it and move to the next. So now it's changed it and added it to the document. Then she gets down to leadership development. She goes, you know what? I don't like executive development program because maybe it's people that are directors and they're not really in the executive position. So I'm going to keep it leadership development. She can go to reject and move to the next and reject my new name. And now it stays the same in my document. So she can literally proofread and save my changes as she goes along in this document to save her time, to take my feedback and make her life a whole lot easier. Make sense? Okay, Tara's like, yes. All right, so one of the last things that I want to show you is the use of the mail merger. Okay, so I'm going to close this other document and not save my changes. So mail merger is something people like to do. So let's say you send out, I'm just going to use the example of a form letter that, you know, I send out to my, Crystal, I'll use an example. Maybe you send it out to all the nonprofit members, right? You just want to mail something out. What you want to do to be able to mail merge, this makes your life so much easier, is to create a spreadsheet with whatever contact information you want to have on it. So for instance, first name, last name, address, city, state, zip code, email address, whatever, right? So I took the liberty of creating, and I will go into my consortium folder really quickly. I made the liberty of, well, I'm in the wrong one, sorry. Of taking some mock data. So I just used a website that gives me mock data, and that'll pop up and I'll show you what it looks like. And then I'm going to close it because we need to do it inside of this. So on my spreadsheet, it gave me 1,000 rows of data, right? And it's just first name, last name, email, city, state, and zip code. All right. So let's say these are my contacts for my nonprofit members. All right. So just format it that way. Make sure the first row is headers of your information and save it. All right. So I've saved it. Now you know what it looks like. So in my Word document, I'm going to go up to the mailings tab. And I'm going to click on the button that says Start Mail Merge. Now you have the option if you work in Outlook, because again, this is Microsoft software, so it has to be Outlook. If you work in Outlook, you can also do email messages from that list as well. You can send it to all 1,000 contacts. So, but right now I'm going to do a letter. All right. So I'm going to hit letter. All right. So it looks like a document. Everything looks the same. What I'm going to do is now start to format this to include things, right? So mail merge. All right. Now I start my mail merge. I chose letters. Now I'm going to select the recipient. So first step is to start your merge on whatever you're using. The next is to select your recipients. Now you can type a new list if you choose to. I created the spreadsheet, so I'm going to use an existing list. Okay, so when I click existing list, it's going to ask me where is that list. So I'm going to navigate to my file where it was before. And I'm going to double click to open my Excel file here. And it says, this is my data. Yes, that's my data. My first row of data contains the headers, so make sure you're formatted that way again. First row is always headers. And when you hit OK, it looks like nothing happened, but now all of these buttons are available, right? Because now we can start formatting it. So I'm going to say here is to insert a merge field. So the field is the columns of your spreadsheet. That's why the first row needed to be headers. So I'm going to insert a field, and you notice that my fields are the column headers. So I'm going to say first name, space, last name, enter, city, comma, space, state, space, and zip code. All right. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to go here where it says greeting line. In my greeting line, I want it to say, dear, that Joshua Randall Jr., comma, dear sir or madam, stays the same. You actually can say to whom it may concern, and you also can change the style. So maybe you know you have male and female, husband and wife on your list, or etc. So you can change the style. I usually remain the same, but you can change that greeting. And so I'll hit OK, and now it says greeting line. All right, and then you start. This letter is to inform you of boom, and you start doing your letter, right? So all these letters are going to look the same. I'm going to highlight and bold it and increase the font here just because I want you to see it. I'll go back to mailings, and notice this looks weird, right? But if I go to the preview results button now it fills it in with information. And you can click the records. So each record is the same letter, different information. Everybody see that? And I can go through 1,000 all the way to 1,000. So their first name, last name, city, state, and zip code will always be put in from that file that I merged. And when I'm happy with it, I just put finish merge, and I can hit print documents, and it will print 1,000 letters for you to mail. Do the same with an email message. It's just going to pop up a screen that looks like an email message. You're going to type in the stuff, add the fields that you just saw me add, same way, just a different email. And as soon as you hit merge and send emails, it will automatically send those emails. And when you hop over to Outlook, it will show you 1,000 emails sent inside of Outlook. So this is a quick way to add form letters, envelopes, labels, anything that's consistently over and over and over and over again. You're able to create those in Word and mail merge a list in so that all of your information can be pulled in automatically. Any questions? All right, I'm not going to save that. I'm going to pop over my screen really quickly. Can you guys see that screen? My website? Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is that when you go to our new website, the first thing you see is this train button. If you go to train, it will pop up, and then you'll see a tab that says virtual services. When you click on that, it launches you to the website that I created for our team. And at the very bottom on every page, there is schedule an appointment. Okay, so if you guys want to communicate with me, you can email me if it's easier for you, but you also can do this. When you click on schedule an appointment, Crystal, this was that booking thing I was telling you about earlier. It redirects you to a page that was established for us. And you can have an appointment with career services or an appointment with digital skills. So this is the digital skills. You would select my name, and what it does is imitate my calendar. So any day you click on it will show you all of my availability for every single day. So again, on the 4th, I'm on vacation, I'm out, so it's showing that there's no availability. So anytime you can just book it, type in your name and email, and as soon as you hit book, it will give you a Teams link to and automatically put it on my calendar so I can talk to you guys as whatever questions that you might have. I just kind of wanted to show you that because I didn't want you to think that you had to wait until the next session. to be able to talk to me, to be able to ask questions or anything. So I know Microsoft Word is a little boring. The other thing that I would like to kind of go over, it's a whole class in of itself. And let me just share one more time. This will be the next one, I think, if you guys want another Microsoft Office one. Let me share really quickly. This is called the Developer tab. This is if you're a person that's creating documents or kind of forms for people to fill out, or some kind of templates. If you do not have the Developer tab on your tabs, the easiest way to get it, it's included in Microsoft, it's just not part of the default package. You can right click anywhere on the ribbon, which is this field up here, and say customize ribbon. And you'll notice in the right hand side here, there's little check boxes. Developer is right here. By default, it is not selected. So default developer does not show anything automatically. Customize ribbon, and just check that developer box and hit OK, and your developer tab will automatically appear. And what developer is some really kind of intricate advanced Microsoft stuff. I'll give you an example. The easiest way that people use developer is to create controls. So if you have forms that people fill out on a regular basis and you don't want them to change the formatting or anything like that, you go into design mode here and you start inserting these controls. So you can insert a checkbox. Okay, you'll see the checkbox type up, and maybe this is to select an appointment with Tara. All right, I can insert another checkbox, and this is to schedule an appointment with Richard. Okay, that's one of the controls. You also can list picture boxes, text boxes. So if I type a text box here, you'll see what will happen. So these little areas outside of it, it's just showing that you're in design mode and you can change them a little bit. So if I come off of design mode, notice they change. So now the check boxes work like this. I can do check boxes very easily. Okay, I don't have to do that double click checked that you always do. These are control boxes. So you just kind of click throughout the whole thing. In the text field, now you can see I can just start typing and it changes with me. So you cannot change the layout or format of my document. I give you spaces to type. Okay. Another option in design mode is a date picker. So maybe you have people that need to select dates, like today is the day I'm submitting this request. Now it looks like a calendar. Okay, so now I just pick October 5th, and now it looks like October 5th, 2021. So I give you places to insert these things inside the document. Now, every single one of these also has a properties. So you can look at the properties of it and set certain things, change the symbol. So maybe it's not a box, maybe it's something different. You also can lock the content so they can't be deleted. You can lock them so it can't be edited. You have a lot of abilities to be able to do that. So in your text box controls under properties, maybe you want to change the color of it. Maybe it's not grayed, click here, right? Maybe it's red so people can see it a little bit better. You can remove content. So you have a lot of ability to change that format of that control to be able to handle your documents and give people a little bit more leeway to do things inside of documents you've created without womping it up or destroying it, because some people are not as versed in Word as you might be. So that's just another kind of thing. And this is a whole class in and of itself where you can learn to put those in there and design a document on your own to be able to use within your organization. All right, so that brings us to about 1 o'clock. I just want to give you guys time to ask any questions, have any comments, whatever needs to happen. Again, guys have my email. You can register for more classes on the website. Please fill out the surveys that Crystal sends. That's where we design content from. Again, you can book an appointment with me if you think that it's, something you want to talk about further. But I'll open the floor up now for any questions or comments. I'm so glad. I'm just, are you still recording, Crystal? Okay. I won't tell Tara what I think then. Well, I see Tara said it was very helpful. I guess any other comments, questions?
I really thought that it was interesting. The developer tab is interesting. I think it's probably beyond what I would do, although looks interesting to go in and sort of experiment with it. And I think that, that's what I'm going to be interested in doing more of. And I didn't realize, I mean, that seems to be like the only tab that's not included on the default settings, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
weird?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because it's much more advanced.
Yeah, because you're actually building forms, you're building controls. It's also, if you notice on the left-hand side of it, it's also Visual Basic and macros,
Oh.
which is much more advanced in Word than everyday users. So they
Gotcha.
kind of pull it back and unless it's there.
Wow. Cool.
Oh, somebody said trying to take it all in. I know an hour session is a lot, I'm telling you.
And I really thought I loved seeing the footnotes and the style guides and stuff like that. It just made me have flashbacks to graduate school when we, of course, had to do everything the old-fashioned way.
Yes.
I know. I was like, kids these days, they really have it easy.
I know.
Yes. I still remember.
Guide. What was that?
I still the MLA. So you had to buy one for each one of them. So if you had a psychology class, you had to buy the APA book, and if you had a research class, you had to buy the MLA book. I remember it. I remember. Yeah. So, but it's again, it's easy and efficient. You still want to review stuff, you still want to do that, but to be able to keep those sightings that she said, I still have my book. You go. You still want to be able to cite those sources and just pull them back over, because especially like Randolph County Economic Report, for instance, I might cite that 17 times within a year because it's standard for the whole year or whatever. So it's good to be able to have that in there and can delete it when I don't need it anymore.
Right. That's awesome.
Yep. I hate Steve missed this one, but he'll get the recording.
I'm gonna make him watch it.
But again,